There are neither egoistic nor unegoistic acts. Both concepts are psychological absurdities.
Wow, what a way to start, right? This startling assertion from Section 5 of Ecce Homo's Why I Write Such Good Books doesn't just nudge our basic moral vocabulary. It confronts it head-on. Nietzsche isn't merely quibbling with definitions here. No. He's declaring foundational ethical concepts, the very bedrock of how we think about good and bad, to be psychological illusions. Illusions! We'll explore how this very claim exemplifies his radical unmasking of conventional morality, and, just as importantly, his audacious attempt to redefine psychology itself. Think about that. This throws down a gauntlet, doesn't it? If our most cherished ideas of selfishness and selflessness are, as he claims, absurd, then what guides action? What's left? By dissecting Nietzsche's critique, we'll gain crucial tools to question those deeply ingrained moral assumptions we all carry, and to truly understand his profound, unsettling challenge to the entirety of Western ethical thought. So, today, we delve deep into sections 4 and 5 of Why I Write Such Good Books, from Nietzsche's Ecce Homo. Now, as we've touched on before, this work, it's his ultimate self-interpretation, his final word on himself, if you will. And it's absolutely methodologically crucial, I can't stress this enough, to remember that Ecclesiastes, penned right on the brink of his tragic collapse, is an intensely curated self-narrative. This isn't just casual reflection, it's a performance, demanding we consider not just what he says, but how and why he meticulously constructs this particular image of himself and his monumental work. We'll examine his unique, almost revolutionary theory of style as communicating pathos, that inner fire, and his potent, relentless critique of idealism in Section 4. Then, we'll tackle his bold self-proclamation as a psychologist, his deeply controversial views on women, and we will tackle them, and his fierce, unwavering opposition to what he calls anti-nature, culminating in his explosive polemic against chastity in Section 5. This journey, my friends, reveals the very heart of Nietzsche's revaluation method. It's quite a ride. All right, let's begin with Section 4. This is where Nietzsche addresses his art of style. And how does he open? With a definition so striking, it practically leaps off the page.
To communicate a state, an inner tension of pathos, with signs, including the tempo of these signs, that is, the meaning of every style. And considering that I have an extraordinary number of inner states, I also have a lot of stylistic possibilities, the most multifarious art of style that anyone has ever had at his disposal.
Style, for Nietzsche, and this is crucial, is not mere ornamentation, not just pretty words. No, it's the very vehicle, the conduit for conveying pathos, these intense inner states, these raw tensions of feeling and lived experience. Now, this conception of style as the direct externalization of inner pathos, it clearly aligns him with expressive theories of art. Think Romanticism, think beyond, where authenticity, the genuine, and the successful conveyance of subjective experience are absolutely paramount. His claim, then, to a multifarious art of style isn't just a boast, it's directly linked to the extraordinary number of inner states he experiences. Can you see it? This immediately suggests a philosophy where the subjective, the deeply personal, the experiential is paramount, and where the form of expression is utterly inseparable from the content. He even continues, every style that really communicates an inner state is good. My instinct here is unfailing. That confidence, that bold assertion of an unfailing instinct, classic Nietzsche. But then, just as quickly, he pivots. He launches into a critique, dismissing, with characteristic force, the very notion of
good style in itself. This is pure stupidity, just idealism. somewhat like beauty in itself, the good in itself, the thing in itself.
And there it is again, that recurring target, idealism. For Nietzsche, as we've discussed, idealism isn't just a philosophical school. It often signifies a belief in abstract, disembodied universals, ideas floating free, completely detached from the concrete, messy, lived world. Now, it's worth noting, just from a historiographical perspective, that Nietzsche's use of idealism is incredibly multifaceted. It's a slippery term for him. It can refer to Platonic forms, sure, or Kantian transcendental idealism, or even, as we see right here, certain types of moral or aesthetic absolutism. So, understanding his specific target in each instance, that's absolutely key to grasping the full force of his critique. Just as he relentlessly rejects the good in itself, or the thing in itself in metaphysics and ethics, he similarly rejects beauty in itself, or good style in itself, in aesthetics. Style for Nietzsche is good insofar as it communicates pathos, period. Now, this intense emphasis on communicating pathos, well, it leads to a crucial problem, doesn't it? A problem that directly introduces our solitary communicator thread, the desperate need for a receptive audience. He puts it plainly. Always supposing that there are ears, that there are people capable and worthy of a similar pathos, that there are people you can communicate with. And believe me, this isn't just a casual remark. Oh no, it's absolutely central to his understanding of his own monumental work. He then laments, and you can almost hear the ache in his voice.
Meanwhile, my Zarathustra, for instance, looks for people like this, and oh, he will have to look for a long time. You need to be worthy of hearing him, and until then nobody will understand the art that has been wasted here. Nobody has ever wasted a greater number of new and unheard of artistic devices, devices created for this very purpose.
Can you feel that? There's such a profound sense of isolation here, a palpable feeling that his innovations, his very language, his soul, poured onto the page, might be wasted, utterly wasted. And this, of course, presents a fascinating interpretive tension for us. Is this a genuine, heartfelt lament over incomprehension? Is it a clever, strategic positioning of his work for some future enlightened elite? Or perhaps, is it a deep reflection of the inherent, almost agonizing difficulty in communicating truly novel philosophical insights, using the old, worn-out tools of existing linguistic frameworks? Scholarly opinion, as you might imagine, varies widely. He even goes on to claim, "Before I came along, no one knew what the German language was capable of. I was the first to discover the art of great rhythm, the great style of the period, to express an incredible up and down of sublime, of overmanly passion." Now, this isn't just empty boasting. It's a profound claim about the unique, unprecedented demands his philosophy places on language itself, and, consequently, on you, on the reader. The image he paints, it's one of soaring to dizzying heights where precious few can follow. A solitary, windswept peak. So, to quickly summarize this first section then, Nietzsche presents style not as decoration, but as the dynamic, multifarious, living expression of inner pathos. He utterly rejects those abstract, idealistic, bloodless notions of good style in itself. But this very expressive power, this fire he seeks to convey, creates a profound dilemma of communication. It highlights his almost tragic sense of intellectual solitude and his yearning, his desperate need for a worthy reader, someone who can truly hear. Now, let's shift gears. Let's turn to section 5. Here, Nietzsche dramatically shifts his focus from style to psychology, boldly asserting his absolute preeminence in this domain. This, my friends, is where the depth psychologist, the unmasker, truly steps into the spotlight. Listen to this.
The fact that a psychologist without equal is speaking in my works, this is perhaps the first thing a good reader will realize, the sort of reader I deserve, who reads me as good old philologists read their Horace.
There it is again, that crucial emphasis on the good reader, the one who can discern the subtle, often hidden, psychological operations at play in his texts and in life itself. It's an incredibly bold claim, isn't it? Psychologist without equal. But, as a methodological insight, perhaps we should see this less as a simple boast about mastering an existing discipline, and more as Nietzsche powerfully signaling his intent to forge an entirely new kind of psychology. A psychology rooted in unmasking, in revaluation. And what does this self-proclaimed psychologist without equal actually do? He unmasks. He reveals the naive mistakes, the comfortable illusions underlying commonly accepted truths. Nietzsche then rattles off a list, and it's quite something.
For instance, the belief that unegoistic and egoistic are opposites, when the ego is itself just a higher lie, an ideal. There are neither egoistic nor unegoistic acts. Both concepts are psychological absurdities.
Now that is a radical claim. Think about it. The distinction between egoism and altruism, it's absolutely foundational to so many ethical systems. Consider, for instance, Kant's meticulous, painstaking distinctions between actions performed from duty versus those merely in accordance with duty. Or think of utilitarianism's complex, intricate calculus constantly balancing individual and general happiness. For Nietzsche, all of these are psychological absurdities. The ego itself, that thing we think of as I, is not some stable, transparent entity. Instead, it's a higher lie, an ideal, yet another form of that pervasive idealism he so fiercely critiques. This points towards a psychology that doesn't just skim the surface. It delves deep beneath conscious motivations and conventional labels, searching for more fundamental, primal drives. And he continues his list of debunked claims. Single quote, "People strive for happiness," or "the claim happiness is the reward for virtue," or, get this, the claim pleasure and pain, they're opposites. Each of these cherished beliefs becomes a target for his razor-sharp psychological scalpel. And then he identifies the corrupting agent, the culprit behind all this psychological confusion.
Morality, the Circe of humanity, has fundamentally falsified, moralified, all psychological, to the point where you get complete nonsense, like the claim that love is something unegoistic.
Moralification. What a powerful, evocative term. Psychology, he argues, in its popular and even its more sophisticated philosophical forms, has been utterly bewitched, distorted, twisted out of shape by moral presuppositions. This, then, is the core unmasking work of Nietzsche's psychology, to strip away these suffocating moral layers and reveal what truly lies beneath, the raw, unfiltered truth. Now, though Nietzsche positions himself as a radical innovator here, and in many ways he is, it's a fascinating interpretive tension within scholarship, isn't it? To what extent does his unmasking fully escape its own set of presuppositions? Or does it, perhaps, merely replace one interpretive lens with another, equally powerful one? Consider his initial take on love, right here. You have to be firmly grounded in yourself. You have to stand bravely on your own 2 feet to be able to love at all. This is hardly unegoistic in the conventional, self-sacrificing sense, is it? It requires a robust, strong sense of self, a centered self. He even adds, with a characteristic flourish, at the end of the day, this is something women know all too well. They could not care less about selfless, purely objective men. And this mention of women, well, it serves as a distinct pivot, a turning point. So, before we delve into the subsequent and, let's be frank, highly controversial passages, let's just pause for a moment, take a breath. Because, as a crucial methodological point, when we encounter passages in canonical philosophical texts, texts central to our tradition, that are deeply problematic by our contemporary standards, our task as scholars is twofold. It's vital. First, we must strive to understand them within their specific historical and philosophical context. We can't just rip them out of time. But second, and this is equally important, we must engage them critically, head on, rather than excusing them, or worse, ignoring them. So, let's remember where we are. Nietzsche has positioned himself as a unique, unparalleled psychologist, one who overturns conventional wisdom by ruthlessly exposing its naive mistakes and the insidious, distorting influence of moralification. His method? It's one of unmasking, of digging relentlessly beneath the polished surface of accepted concepts. Now, we enter territory that demands truly careful and deeply critical engagement. Nietzsche continues, claiming a special, almost mystical insight into women.
Do I dare to suggest that I know women? This is part of my Dionysian dowry. Who knows? Perhaps I am the first psychologist of the eternal feminine.
The Dionysian dowry, an intriguing phrase. It links this supposed knowledge directly to one of his absolute core philosophical concepts. Remember, the Dionysian often represents those primal, instinctual, chaotic, and wildly transformative forces, usually contrasted with the Apollonian principle of order, reason, and individuation. But here, he problematically and troublingly ties this incredibly powerful dynamic concept to a purported essential, unchanging understanding of women. And what follows? Well, what follows is a series of assertions that are, by any contemporary standard, deeply, profoundly problematic. He states, quite boldly, "They all love me, an old story, not counting unsuccessful women, the emancipated who do not have what it takes to have children. Luckily, I have no desire to let myself be torn apart. The perfect woman tears apart what she loves. I know these obliging maenads. Oh, what dangerous, insidious, subterranean little beasts of prey they are, and so pleasant into the bargain." Wow. The rhetoric here is undeniably intense, isn't it? It's absolutely filled with visceral images of danger and predation. He then offers a stark, almost brutal pronouncement.
Woman is incomparably more evil than man, cleverer too. Goodness in woman is a form of degeneration.
And he doesn't stop there. Concerning the burgeoning vital movement for women's rights, he declares,
The struggle for equal rights is actually a symptom of disease. Every doctor knows this. The woman, the more of a woman she is, fights tooth and nail against rights in general. After all, the natural state of things, the eternal war between the sexes, gives her the highest rank by far.
Let's be absolutely unequivocal here. These are misogynistic and essentialist claims. There's no way around it. They reflect, at least in part, and this is important for historiographical context, the prevalent 19th century biological determinism and the widespread anxieties about shifting gender roles. These ideas were often influenced by nascent evolutionary theories and those pervasive ideas of degeneration that were so current in medical and social discourse at the time. Philosophically, what's going on? Well, Nietzsche seems to be attempting, however clumsily or offensively, to integrate these views into his broader critique of what he perceives as weakness, as herd morality, and perhaps even as pity, which, by the way, he sometimes associates pejoratively with so-called feminine traits. His powerful concept of degeneration, which he uses elsewhere to critique modern society with such devastating effect, is here, disturbingly, applied to goodness in woman and the struggle for equal rights. A troubling turn, indeed. So, it's absolutely crucial to try and analyze these claims within Nietzsche's system. How do they, however perversely, however uncomfortably, connect to his critique of idealism, or his complex notion of power? Is he, in fact, arguing that the demand for equal rights is yet another idealistic imposition on what he considers a more natural, in his highly specific view, state of antagonism and difference? There's a profound, undeniable tension here, a real contradiction. For a philosopher who so passionately champions self-overcoming, who relentlessly critiques herd mentality, his dismissal of emancipated women as some kind of diseased herd, and his shocking reliance on a seemingly fixed, unyielding biological determinism. Well, these are deeply, deeply contradictory, starkly so. We know that thinkers like Schopenhauer, a significant early influence, held notoriously dim, even contemptuous, views of women. And Nietzsche, while breaking from Schopenhauer in so many crucial ways, seems to unfortunately carry forward some of this problematic legacy, albeit filtered, always, through his own unique and powerful concepts. Now, it is intellectually vital, essential really, to contrast this with contemporaneous thinkers. Think of John Stuart Mill, for example. In works like The Subjection of Women, published in 1869, Mill was systematically, brilliantly arguing for women's equality and suffrage. He offered a stark, powerful intellectual counterpoint to these kinds of essentializing, dismissive claims. And this, of course, contrasts sharply with later feminist philosophy, which would, with devastating precision, deconstruct precisely these kinds of essentializing and biologically determinist arguments. It is moments like these jarring, uncomfortable moments, that present a genuine, profound challenge for Nietzsche scholarship. We're faced with the incredibly difficult task of reconciling such pronouncements with the undeniable emancipatory potential that so many readers find elsewhere in his thought. It demands, I think, a stance of scholarly humility before the sheer complexity and, at times, the profound, unsettling inconsistency of the material. The next paragraph? It only intensifies these troubling themes, particularly around his conceptions of love, women's purpose, and emancipation. And all of this is building, inexorably, towards his grand battle for life against what he terms anti-nature. He then offers a truly startling, even shocking, definition of love.
Did anyone have ears for my definition of love? It is the only one worthy of a philosopher. Love, its method is warfare. Its foundation is the deadly hatred between the sexes.
Deadly hatred between the sexes as the foundation of love. This is deliberately, intensely provocative, isn't it? He's framing love not as some gentle harmony, but as a direct extension of this eternal war between the sexes, he posits. And then he turns to the purpose of women, referencing his own Zarathustra. Give her a baby. Women need children. The man is only ever the means. Thus spoke Zarathustra. This is stark, unflinching, biological determinism, pure and simple. And his critique of the emancipation of women, it's particularly harsh, even brutal, and it links directly back to his earlier psychological claims and his relentless attack on idealism.
Emancipation of women, that is the instinctive hatred of failed women, which is to say infertile women, against those who have turned out well. The fight against men is only ever a means, pretext, tactic.
So here, the self-proclaimed depth psychologist claims to unmask the true motive. And what is it? Revenge. A revenge born of perceived failure, specifically biological failure. Now, it's a fascinating interpretive tension, one that scholars often note. Nietzsche's incredibly powerful analyses of resentment, that festering resentment, as a psychological force driving certain moralities, could, quite ironically, be turned back upon his own descriptions right here, where hatred and revenge are posited as the primary motivators for a social movement he clearly dislikes. He sees emancipation, things like secondary education, trousers, and the right to belong to the political herd of voters, not as progress, not as liberation, but as a desire to lower the rank of women in general. He actually calls this an expression of an entire species of the most vicious idealism. Vicious idealism. He even implicates figures like Henrik Ibsen, whom he dismisses as this typical old maid, in this supposed project to poison the good conscience, the natural aspects of sexual love. And there's a contemporary relevance here, isn't there? Albeit a deeply cautionary one. We can see how such rhetorical strategies, accusing opponents of idealism or unnatural motivations as a way to dismiss demands for social change, still persist today. Though, of course, Nietzsche's specific target and his reasoning here remain profoundly problematic, deeply unsettling, and rooted in views that have long been discredited. And this is precisely where that battle for life thread becomes absolutely explicit. The critique of emancipation as vicious idealism connects directly, unmistakably, to his broader, all-encompassing war against anything he deems anti-nature. And the language he uses, that stark physiological language, failed women, infertile women, people in bad shape, it all underscores this connection. It's a truly disturbing linkage, isn't it? A linkage of legitimate social aspiration with supposed inherent biological deficiency. Chilling. And yet, out of this deeply problematic, frankly offensive context, Nietzsche pivots. He shifts, almost jarringly, to a powerful, resounding affirmation. Affirmation that truly resonates with his broader philosophy of life affirmation. Amor fati, even if its preceding justification is so deeply troubling. He concludes section 5 with this incredibly strong proposition.
I will communicate another proposition against vice from out of my moral code. I use the word vice to fight against every type of anti-nature, or, if you like pretty words, idealism. The proposition reads, preaching chastity is a public incitement to anti-nature. Every contempt for sex, every effort to dirty it through the concept of impurity, is a crime against life itself. It is the true sin against the Holy Spirit of life.
Did you catch that? Here, idealism is explicitly, directly equated with anti-nature and with vice. The condemnation of chastity, the fierce rejection of any contempt for sex as a crime against life itself. This is an incredibly forceful statement. And the use of religious language, true sin against the Holy Spirit of life, isn't that striking? Coming from such a famously anti-religious thinker, he's co-opting it, twisting it, to sanctify life itself, to sanctify instinct, the body, the earth. This powerful affirmation of sexuality and the body, it connects him to a fascinating lineage of thinkers. Think of Spinoza, who sought to understand humans not as separate from, but as an integral part of nature. It also anticipates, in compelling ways, aspects of Freudian psychoanalysis, or even Foucault's groundbreaking analyses of the history of sexuality, which also explore the complex repression and societal construction of sexual norms. And it's this aspect of Nietzsche's thought, this radical, unwavering affirmation of earthly life, of the body in all its vitality, against any life-denying asceticism that continues to find such profound contemporary relevance. We see it in discussions of well-being, in critiques of repressive moralities, in philosophies that champion immanence over transcendence. The visual motif here, it's one of breaking chains, of shattering shackles, of embracing the vibrant, messy, earthy aspects of existence against all those sterile, life-denying forces. Yes. So, how do we synthesize this incredibly complex and, let's be honest, difficult section? Well, Nietzsche presents his psychology as a powerful tool, a scalpel for unmasking the moralification of our most basic concepts. This tool, however, and this is the uncomfortable part, leads him to make deeply misogynistic, offensive claims about women, about love, about emancipation. Claims which he attempts to frame within his broader critique of idealism and a highly problematic, supposed understanding of nature and degeneration. And yet, paradoxically, this very same section culminates in a powerful, ringing affirmation of life and sexuality against anti-nature, a truly core, undeniable element of his entire philosophical project. What a whirlwind. So, today, we've navigated some truly intricate terrain in Nietzsche's self-portrayal, haven't we? We've seen how his revolutionary theory of style as the direct conduit for pathos, for that inner fire, deeply intertwines with his unmasking psychology. A psychology that aims to dismantle, piece by piece, the moralification of our world and the tyranny of conventional idealism. We've also grappled, and I hope thoughtfully, with the profound, often jarring tension between his incisive, brilliant critiques of abstract ideals and his own troubling, deeply essentialist claims, particularly, as we saw, regarding women. And through it all, we've also recognized his fierce, unwavering affirmation of life against anything he deems anti-nature. This exploration, I believe, has revealed a philosopher who doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, he demands that we confront complexity head-on, that we acknowledge both the undeniable brilliance of his insights into the human psyche and, simultaneously, the disturbing, sometimes profound contradictions shot through his entire project. It's not comfortable, but it is philosophy. And believe it or not, our journey into Nietzsche's self-conception only intensifies from here. Next time, we turn to section 6 of Why I Write Such Good Books. And what awaits us there? Well, Nietzsche offers a stunningly vivid illustration of his psychological depth through the compelling, unforgettable metaphor of the genius of the heart. This is a figure he describes as a temper god, a Pied Piper, someone capable of descending into the underworld of every soul. Think about that imagery. We will explore how this genius acts as a thawing wind, breaking individuals open, cracking them open to new, previously unnamed hopes and wills. And we'll connect his approach to the ancient Socratic tradition of philosophical midwifery, that art of helping others give birth to their own insights, fostering profound inner transformation. So, prepare yourselves. Prepare to witness how this profound psychological insight isn't just a method for Nietzsche. No, it's the very essence of his enduring power to reshape our understanding of ourselves. You won't want to miss it.